Hello there, my name is Puns, and you might recognize me as that guy who streams Eternal in the morning you woke up lurking to. But I'm here because Jedi actually asked me to do some Eternal deck techs for this charity stream. Now, we're not going to do just one deck tech. We're not doing two, but I have for us today 6 deck techs for the Peasant format, all different and unique in their own separate ways. Now let's get started looking at these decks. First off, we have Peasant Aggro, which, I whipped this up, and it was brought to my attention. This is actually the archetype that won the previous tournament that was held a couple weeks ago. And so I built it, and I think this is incredibly strong. My list apparently is very different from the previous one, but I feel like there is a united theme, as this is, I think, probably the best aggro deck that you can bring to the event. Just because the how aggressively statted all of these Combri minions are, because we get to start out with the Borderlands Lookout and the Oni Samurai. I like having the nice Warcry theme, because you already have aggressively statted minions. Why not make them even better? You have Awakened Student, which is just very nice, because he snowballs over time, and can't be dealt with certain kinds of removal in the format. Can't be dealt with by Annihilate. And that's the nice thing about having these Combri units, is that they're very sticky, and of course they certainly die to Defile, other certain damage-based removals like Torch, Seer, but that's where Warcry comes into play. Warcry being able to get these early Warcry units out to be able to buff them up. And also we get to offer Resolute Monk, who's just really nice, because he's the 5/3 with Overwhelm, and just very aggressively statted. And then we have my personal attack for this deck is Auric Sentry, which people undervalue this card in the format because it's but it's super strong. Being able to have a 1/5 body, especially if it gets Warcried, it just gets even tankier, and the endurance and the Warcry means you feel safe attacking with it every turn. Then you also have the package of Finest Hour Armor Choice. I've also opted to play Ancient Lore, because one thing I was discovering when testing with this deck is you do run out of gas fairly quickly. And so with the Ancient Lore, it basically allows you to give a little bit. It's card draw, and we tried to Heat Distillation, which post-nerf costing 5 with a unit just isn't quite as good as Ancient Lore, buffing your units and drawing 2 cards. Power's pretty standard. We are opting for the 12 package of dual colors, making sure that we do hit an early time and justice sigil, because other than that, that is our Peasant Aggro, which I like that. And this is kind of one of my other pet decks. I kind of made it, just call it Arjuna Good Stuff, because it's not quite an aggro deck, and it's not quite a control deck. It has a little bit of everything in here. It started out as Unseen, but as testing went on, I was kind of finding that I didn't quite like the Unseen aspect of it. A lot of similar aspects to the Combri list, but we opted for a more control-y package. We have Finest Hour and Spiteful Strike, but I also added in Annihilate and Slay. Part of me wanted to add in Defile instead of Slay, because there is going to be a lot of aggressive decks, but there are some things that Slay cannot hit. That Defile can't hit. But I could definitely see adding in either direction. We tested with Defile. Defile did work very well. But another thing here, we have the Stalwart Shield, which is quite nice through there. Sometimes it's just nice to have something, because we're playing the Rooftop Vigilante. And once again, with the Auric Sentry and also with the Ghostblade Outcast weapon, Rooftop Vigilante essentially allows Deadly on your unit. So there's multiple opportunities there to get Deadly in your unit. Plus, stat-wise, it's a 2/3 fly and Warcry. Even if you don't get the Deadly weapon benefit from this unit, it's still very good to have a 2/3 flyer in this particular format. So we have that. And then we get to go to Peasant Relics. This is another one of my pet decks that I've been working on. The benefit of this deck is you get to play the big fatties, and it basically revolves around the combo between Bottled Storm and Waystone Gate. Two of the cards from Echoes of Eternity. basically it revolves around sacrificing these things on your turn. Of course, they are very utility by them. You can pay 3 to draw that sigil for your deck, or pay 3 to deal 1. Sometimes you want to do that. Sometimes you want to do that. But we also have Lathride Lobotomy, which allows us to sacrifice a relic to kill a unit. And Consuming Greed, which you sacrifice a relic to make a 6/4 Rust Fiend. And if you've never played Waystone Gate into Consuming Greed to have an 8/8, a 6/4, and a 2/1 with flying, it is amazing. But also things we have in this deck, we do have the Display of Knowledge, which is so nice because it does fetch our relics, and sometimes you need to take care of aggression with Display of Knowledge. I've enjoyed Pause for Reflection in this deck because I have seen that one thing this deck did struggle with was early aggression. Pause for Reflection essentially is going to bounce whatever they're attacking with, essentially making them replay it. Sometimes you can play it on their turn if they have Warcry or something like that to be able to... essentially, it's there for early aggression. I also see changing this to Defile. Defile is also a good option here. Either that or Annihilate. Annihilate works there too. I was testing out Pause for Reflection, but partially because this deck is nice because everything in it is an expedition. Which, if you're looking for a good budget expedition list, this is... you can't get any cheaper than this. There are a couple upgrades you can make here and there. But overall, it is incredibly solid. We also including Scorpion Wasp, because I've actually been trying out this a lot, because, other than trying to keep the peace, with the Scorpion Wasp, be able to, get in there if they've got attackers, and then basically take care of the things, and they never expect it. No one ever expects the Scorpion Wasp, but, I definitely enjoy this deck. Like I said, it is completely expedition, and you can be able to play it like that if you're looking for a nice, cheap expedition deck to play with. So moving on, we have the Peasant Aggro. This is probably my least favorite of the decks. I mean, it's very aggressive. It's very much focused on, the early drawing cards with Patient Pyromage, charging with Zazari Darvish, and Whirling Duo, and swinging with Sword Vicaria. Also, we have the benefit of Uncommon being able to play Thunder of Wings, which, it's just incredibly solid as well. This is not my deck list. I wish I believe Cal Shadow Step. I believe I'll give credit to them for making this particular one. Yeah, but didn't quite gel with this, but it's certainly a very powerful deck, especially if you get swinging early. You get those Torches, Seers. It just gets there very early on. But I definitely struggled with it in my testing, but I definitely an incredibly solid list as well. Next on the docket is Genev Strangers. Now, this is a deck that actually took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to like this deck as much as I did. If you're very much familiar with, everybody kind of knows the more unbudget-friendly version of this deck. Certainly has some problems, but mainly is we have a bunch of big boys. We have the Magnificent Stranger to reduce things, but the main stars of the show are Determined Stranger, Soaring Stranger, and Battle Tested Stranger. Now, Soaring Stranger essentially allows you to go big and high. So you have a bunch, it's very much that snowballs as the game goes on. You have these bodies in play, be able to go through there. The original version of this deck had all three of the, had Legion Stranger, the Skycrack Stranger, and the, what is the color combination? Praxis Stranger. But we did end up cutting Praxis Stranger for a Display of Instinct, because I think it does have, benefits of being able to, deal damage to something, or negate a spell, or if you're just desperate for health here, being able to bounce, something that's going to be, either killed or give you a health, just to keep you in the game. This deck is a lot of fun, and it's one of those things where it's very curved. I mean, you have your 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4/5, all the way to Battle Tested Stranger, so it has a nice, good flow to it. We did include Wisdom of the Elders, because it's just the most efficient draw spell in the format. you could play Nihil's Distillation over Wisdom of the Elders, but we just found that in testing that, once again, 5 cost Nihil's Distillation is just, it's a crazy how much of a difference 1 mana makes on that particular spell, but it is completely different through there. But that's my Gen of Strangers list. Finally, this is another deck. It's funny enough, I actually use this deck in my free-to-play accounts that I play on Tuesdays, twitch.tv/punsforall. It's incredibly fun to play with. If you're in the lower ranks, it actually can get you there. You could actually rank up. Like, this is, the only real difference is we usually played Fire Conjuring, but because of the event, Fire Conjuring is not allowed, so we're playing Rally instead. But if you were to play this in Throne, you highly recommend Fire Conjuring there. But basically the synergy is based around Rat Cage, Unkindness, and Barbarian Camp. We're making a bunch of rats, and we're swinging in. Sometimes birds, too. If they don't have that unit to go along with it, sometimes you just get 3 birds for 2 mana, which is amazing. Also taking advantage of Cabal Repeater, which can win games. Like, also, most of the time people don't realize that when you twist Cabal Repeater, it gives your units deadly. So essentially, you can swing with impunity, and being able just to swing in there after you twisted Cabal Repeater to get in there, get damage, and go in like that. Very fun deck, because we also run the Assembly Line, Scavenge. Essentially, it's a tokens deck, making a lot of little dudes, buffing them as the game goes on, and going through there. Absolutely fun, and this is like I said, this is a deck that you could take to ladder. I've had success with it. I know other people, Kill Truth, I know he's had success with it. I gave it to him, and he actually made Masters with this deck. Granted, it was kind of a grind, and he made Master Rank with this. So there we go. That's that one. And what is this? Bonus deck tech! Did we actually have 7 after all? I guess we did. This is my build of Elysian Flyers. Now, Elysian Flyers is a very powerful deck in Throne, basically based around Majestic Skies. Majestic Skies is a hell of a buff, because 2 mana buff your team, and we do have access to a lot of the same elements that the other deck had. We do have access to, we opted not to play the 1 mana Silence unit in the hand, because we opted to play Inner Peace Ascendant instead. Now, my reasoning behind this is we were playing 4 Precision Plunge, and Precision Plunge plus Inner Peace Ascendant is just a match made in heaven. Also, another spicy tech I came up with myself is 4 Cobalt Monument, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't know what this card did. It has Transmute 5 and create a 4/4 Storm Dancer with flying. Now, we were kind of struggled with what we wanted to play as our finisher, essentially. So, the nice thing about the Cobalt Monument is we don't have access to the emblems in this Peasant format. So, with the Cobalt Monument, essentially allows us to keep going through there and be over there. So, this has been my instant deck tech. I hope you guys like these decks. Feel free to follow me at twitch.tv/punsforall, and I will see you guys later.